Good morning, everyone. This is Catherine Adelberg. Welcome to Literacy Behind Bars Inside the World of Texas Prison Librarians. And we have a fantastic team with us from the Wyndham School District, which serves the Texas prison population. Some of us from the Texas State Library had the opportunity to present and meet the Wyndham School District librarians at their annual Staff Day conference, and we were just blown away by how incredibly talented they are, how hard they work, and how committed they are to literacy and education of their patrons. So we would love to share more of their story with you, and that's why we're here today. Um, so we're going to start by looking at a couple of different things. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to have them share some information about the Wyndham School District, some information about what the librarians do every day, what their patrons are like, and conclude by talking about how public libraries can support the Wyndham School District and their patrons. At any point, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. No matter how big or how small, we're happy to get them answered. And if we can answer them kind of in the course of discussion, we'll work them in, and if not, we'll answer them at the end. So feel free to send in your questions. So we're going to start by providing an overview of the Wyndham School District because Wyndham is pretty unique. And this is a map of all of the Wyndham School District locations. Rebecca, did you want to add anything about the units themselves?
Well, I'm going to pass this over to Dr. Craig because she can give you a better overview than I can about Wyndham School District in general.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is Patrice Craig, and we are unique in that we are a non-geographical school district and one of the largest school districts, the largest school district in the state of Texas because we cover the entire state. Wyndham operates a school at almost every location where TDCJ has a prison. So we operate a school at approximately 92 different locations. And as you can see from the map, our school district is divided into 8 different regions or areas geographically. So Wyndham covers an area as far north as Dalhart, as far west as El Paso, as far south as Edinburgh, and as far east as New Boston, where we have the Telford unit located. Naomi, is there anything more that you would like for me to, or Catherine, anything more that you would like for me to elaborate on as far as geographical location of Wyndham School District in the area that we cover?
Well, I think thank you, Dr. Craig. This is a great introduction to the scope and scale of Wyndham, which is just really incredible. And then we have some information about the different kinds of programs that the Wyndham School District offers. Dr. Craig, did you want to add anything about the academic life skills or vocational programs?
Sure. As far as our academic programs go, we have literacy that we offer, which generally consists of Literacy 1, Literacy 2, Literacy 3, and any combination thereof. We also offer Lead and Achieve Academy, which is for our public school librarians that may be participating, also known as our Title I, providing services to those students that are under the age 21 and under. We also have ESL, or English as a second language, for our second language learners. And those areas cover our academic programs. But in addition to our academic programs, we have life skills. And with life skills, we offer one course that's titled Changes, which is an acronym for Changing Habits and Achieving New Goals to Empower Success. And this is a pre-release program that we provide for those offenders that are getting ready to go home. So this particular class prepares them to re-enter society, equipping them with the skills that they need in order for them to be successful. And offenders are eligible to take this course if they are within 2 years of release. Another life skills course that we have is our cognitive intervention. And cognitive intervention focuses on changing their criminogenic thinking. And this particular course is voluntary, and all offenders are eligible to take cognitive intervention. In addition to changes and cognitive, we offer parenting and family wellness as one of our life skills courses. And parenting and family wellness is offered at all of our female facilities, as well as some of our male facilities. And the third area that we provide educational programs and services is in the area of vocational. And we offer more than 40 vocational trades to our offenders within the state of Texas.
Thank you, Dr. Craig. So this is, as you can see, this is kind of a little bit of a different focus than a traditional school district, but very robust programming. All right, and then we have some more information about the Windham School District kind of by the numbers, just to give a sense of how vast the school district is and kind of the challenges that may be faced. Dr. Craig, did you want to elaborate on this?
Well, as you can see, we have we provide services to more than 60,000 students annually. And again, you can see the number of campuses or locations that are there, as well as the number of libraries, which totals 86. The average educational achievement of an academic student is about 6th grade, 8th month. And the average age of our students is approximately 35 years of age.
All right, thank you. Feel free to add any questions in the chat if anyone has any questions about the Windham School District and its operation. Okay, so this was one of the questions I had before we met with the Windham School District librarians. What does their day look like? What did they do? And so I'm going to have you all talk about the roles and responsibilities of Windham School District librarians.
Catherine, this is Rebecca again. I think the difference between us and a regular school district is not only are we serving the students, but we're serving everyone on the prison facility. So we call those general population. So our patrons are vastly made up of general population, with the small majority being students. So even though we are a school district, we operate more like a public library.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. I did get a question about how is the Windham School District funded?
We are funded through MOU funds through the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, through the state of Texas.
Thank you. And can you tell us, is the Windham School District for everyone that's incarcerated in Texas, children and adults?
We don't serve children. Children would be in the juvenile system. We serve adults.
So in Texas, they are separate.
They are separate. Yes, it's a separate system.
Okay, excellent. And can you talk a little bit more about the difference in serving general population and the school district students?
The main difference is, in a prison setting, the movement is very choreographed and very controlled. So our problem is getting the offenders or the patrons into the library, because they don't have the freedom to just say, oh, well, I want to go get a book and go get a book. They have, many times they have to have an appointment to go get a book, which is called a lay-in, and we make those appointments, and perhaps something happens on the unit and they're not allowed to move at all, so they can't make it to the library. So even though we have a great interest in the library, it's not always possible to serve our patrons as we would hope we could. But I think that there are many people in prison that are using the library faithfully that perhaps have never been into a public library. And that's why I'm so excited about your idea of having a webinar about this to collaborate with the public library. So now that these patrons are accustomed to coming to the library on a weekly basis, that they continue once they get out of prison and back into their communities.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's a great thought. We've got a question here. How can students enroll in Windham School District, and is it open to all offenders?
If you do not have a GED or a high school diploma, it is required. And we have school counselors that will look at their records and enroll them in that manner. Now, as far as the changes classes or vocational classes, it all depends on how close they are to their release date. The vocational classes, I believe if you have college, you're not eligible for the vocational classes. Many of the programs are based on age and educational level. So if you don't have a high school diploma, you can basically get into just about anything, because our goal is to give them those tools so that whenever they get out, they can actually be successful in life and not have to go back to the life that they were living before.
Okay, thank you. And we've got a couple more questions too. Can you elaborate a little bit more about the types of courses in cognitive intervention?
Absolutely. Let me pass this over to Dr. Craig.
Thank you.
Cognitive intervention is a course, and it's open-ended, meaning that, or open enrollment, meaning that students may enter the course at any time. But with cognitive intervention, it's the course is created with different modules that the students must complete, and all of the modules for cognitive intervention are based on those their thinking skills and retraining their way of thinking. And students must successfully complete the program based on the content, as well as class participation and other factors, related factors, in order to receive a certificate of completion for cognitive intervention.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Craig, for elaborating on that. And I got a follow-up question. So do you all help offenders earn their GED or diploma?
Yes, we do. That's one of our primary functions, is to help those offenders obtain a GED.
Okay, excellent. And we have two questions about your collections. Are books purchased with funds from the Texas Department for Criminal Justice, or do you receive donations? How do you get books on your shelves?
Both. We get funds from the state of Texas, but we also receive donations. We actually get more donations from the offenders themselves than from anyone else.
Okay, great. And I'm seeing in the chat a reminder for the Inside Books project that collects books that are donated, I believe, to the individuals. But I don't know if they work with the prison libraries as well.
No, it's directly with offenders.
Okay.
But those offenders perhaps might donate those books to the library. Once the offenders receive the books from their family or from organizations as that, then they have the opportunity to take the book to the library to donate it so it can be added to the collection.
Okay, great. Thank you. And can you talk a little bit about your collection development policies? Kind of wondering about the key differences between your library and a public library.
Well, I can't speak to public libraries. Perhaps Robin Holloway can speak to that because she was a public librarian, how we differentiate between our collection versus a public library. So I'll pass it to Robin Holloway. I don't understand. She's asking about the collection. How we different from public libraries and how we have collection development.
This is Robin Holloway. I think every library bases their collection development on some pretty standard ratios, X amount in your Deweys and X amount in your fiction. I think the main difference that I've seen, I worked in public libraries for 17 years prior to my time here. It is more, the prison system is more patron-based versus it gets a little lopsided. Everybody wants to read the 300s in prison. That is the biggest number of books checked out in nonfiction is from the 300s, whereas a public library has a more well-rounded system of development. So it's what they want. It's more of an emphasis in the prison.
And let me add to that. First of all, probably most public libraries don't use the Dewey Decimal, but that's where we are. So all the numbers that I have are based on that. In case you're interested, in the zeros, we have 1 to 3% of our collection. In the 100s, we have 3 to 5%. In the 200s, we have 3 to 5%. In the 300s, we have 4 to 6%. In the 400s, we have 1%. In the 500s, we have 5 to 7%. 600s, 5 to 7%. 700s, 6 to 8%. 800s, 6 to 8%. 900s, 7 to 9%. And half of our collection is fiction.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca and Robin. And in terms of developing your collection, there are some restrictions probably that you all would have to abide by that public libraries might not.
Yes, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice puts out an unapproved list for books. And, as librarians, it is sometimes difficult because we want everyone to have access to this information, but we also have to remember our setting and remember who our patrons are. Because we don't want to give them information such as how to build a bomb, where, in the public library, that's free to know, but in the prison, that's not such a good thing, or how the offenders at Alcatraz escaped. We don't need them to know that because that might give them ideas on how to escape from their present facility. So that's the kind of things that get unapproved.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. And thank you all for sending in your questions. We have so many right now, which is awesome. And kind of sticking on the same subject as books, do you all have hardcover books in your collection?
Yes. We accept paperback books, but then we send them to a bindery and make them into hardcover books because that allows the book to last longer. The life of a paperback book is not very long at all. So I would say 99.5% of our collection is hardcover books.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then let's see. And this includes, did you say that 50% of the collection is fiction?
That is correct.
So that includes kind of popular titles?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. In terms of the academic courses offered by the Wyndham School District, do you all collaborate with a community college or university faculty to develop that curriculum? How did it get developed?
We do not collaborate with any community colleges or anything like that. Now, we do have some colleges that are also on facilities. So they offer college courses to the offenders in the prison facility, but they're a separate entity from us.
Okay, great. Thank you. And are patrons able to use computers? How do they learn word processing and other programs? Or do they get to learn word processing and other programs?
There are computer labs that specialize classes to learn things like that. The only thing that you might not realize is that they're not allowed to get on the internet. And even in our libraries for our staff members, we have very limited internet access just because of security reasons.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we have a reminder from one of our Talking Book program staff that offenders with visual, physical, and certain reading disabilities are served within the prisons by the Texas Talking Book program.
Absolutely. And let me pass this over to Bartley Riley, who is our coordinator for that, and he can give some information on that.
Thank you.
This is Bartley Riley. I am the coordinator for the ADS program, Assistive Disability Services Program, for all our units in the state. And we have quite a few who partake of this. Now, we do not certify them. We leave that up to UTMB, University of Texas Medical Branch, who certify that they should be allowed get talking books. And the Texas State Library is marvelous from that point of view. I deal with them on a daily basis, and they are so helpful in providing this service to all our branches. We receive the talking books from them in the library, and we check them out, the same as regular books, and at the same rate. If a unit gives 2 library books per week to offenders, we do the same with the talking book program. They also send us magazines on tape, which makes up for the lack of them being able to read magazines in the library, which the regular offenders are allowed to do. So all in all, we have approximately 250 people who partake of this throughout the state. The Estelle unit where I am have about half of them, and we try our best to facilitate those people who are deprived otherwise.
Thank you, Bartley, for providing that summary. Okay, and I have one more question related to computer use. I know you said that internet access was very limited. Do the offenders get any, or, you know, do your patrons have any access to any kind of online courses?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
So,
thank you for confirming that. Okay, thank you all so much for all your questions. This is great. I want to continue by taking a look at kind of the stakeholders in the Wyndham School District libraries. These are kind of the people that help the library function and their service populations. Rebecca, did you want to talk about the roles that these people play in the library?
But if you notice, the warden is number one, because even though we are separate from TDCJ, we are under the warden's control, because he has to control the security on the unit. He has to make sure everything is running properly. So we can have our programs, we can get the principal's permission to have our programs, but we also have to get the warden involved, because he has to make sure security is number one. So he has to make sure that everything is going to be secure, that there are going to be no problems with what we're doing and how the offenders are going to move and how the patrons are going to use the library. And going down from that, the correctional officers are the ones who have to actually do the legwork, actually have to run the offenders through the library, through the school. So they have to be on board as well. Our principal is our immediate supervisor on the unit. So just like in a regular school district, the librarian must direct anything to the principal. Our instructors work with us, so our colleagues, we're trying to help them. How can we help them with their research, with their resources, with any needs that they might have? And they also provide us feedback with what kind of books perhaps would be useful to them and how we can help the offenders learn what they need to know for the GED or for the vocational classes or for the changes classes. Our students, our patrons, which is a general population, both of those together, they are the ones who actually use our library. So we want to hear their feedback. What can we do to help them? Because, they got into prison because something didn't work for them, because they weren't successful out in the world. So we want to change that. We want to make sure that we give them every resource possible, that they have the best chance of success whenever they get out.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I think that sometimes is easy to forget that almost all of your patrons will be, get out at some point.
Yes, they will.
Thank you.
And then they'll come to the public libraries.
Yes.
That's our goal.
Excellent. And there was a question that I missed from earlier. How often do positions become available in Windham School District?
Not very often. Once someone gets into Windham libraries, they normally stay. But we have a Windham website, and we can send you that address, and you can post it that we do have positions available. I think we have one position available on the website at the present time. We have 3. Okay, so in the Gatesville area, in Roche-Sharon area, we currently have positions available.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and so let's take a little bit deeper dive into your patrons, the Windham School District patrons. Can you share some success stories?
Absolutely. Let me pass this over to Laura Gott at Vito, and she can, or Brian Kelly. You haven't heard from either one of those, and perhaps they have something to share with you.
Great, thank you.
Good morning. Can you all hear me okay?
Good morning.
Okay.
Sounds good.
My name is Brian Kelly. I am a 14-year veteran with Windham here. I have covered 12 units in my career. I have seen a variety of different avenues of these offenders. I currently work at the Polunsky unit, which is also home of death row, and I oversee a very large population of offenders. I can have upwards about, I'd say about 200 offenders a week that attend the library in person. And we also serve a population known as administrative segregation, or ADSEG, that cannot attend the library physically. They send in slips, and then we deliver to them. And we provide services also for certain populations that have different custody levels, G4 and G5, and depending on the units, some may allow, some may not, G4 status offenders to come to the library or not. On our unit, we don't, so we have to deliver to them. And they, in a likewise manner, they submit slips, and then we fill their requests accordingly.
Hi, this is Laura Gott. I'm a librarian in the Palestine area. and I'm based at the Beto unit. Can you hear me okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. I'm going to tell you just a quick, funny little story. When you mentioned a success story, and we deal with so many different types of offenders in the library. One day I had a gentleman come in, and he wasn't sure what he wanted to read. And when I noticed that he was about to leave the library empty-handed, and I wasn't about to let that happen because my main focus in my job is to encourage reading. I don't want a patron leaving without a book. But he looked a little disgruntled, so I wanted to see what happened and see if I could fix it. In our libraries, we also have displays, bulletin boards, and activities, just like you might have in a school library or in a public library, to encourage people to read. And at that time, I happened to have, sitting on my counter, a suggestion jar. And this was just for somebody who had no idea what they wanted to read. They could pick a suggestion out of the jar. And so I encouraged this gentleman to try it out. And he was a little reluctant at first. But then he broke down and reached into the suggestion jar. He pulled out a slip of paper and he unfolded it. He read the title and he said, well, I've already read that one. So I said, okay, well, try again. And he picked out another slip of paper and he said, well, I've already read that one. So apparently he was a pretty big reader. I said, try a third time, just one more time. And so he pulled out his third piece of paper and he looked at me, and then he took his piece of paper and he walked down to get his book. When he came past me the second time on his way out, he had his book in his hand, and there was another gentleman who was also in line near him. That gentleman was having difficulty choosing a book, and so he said to him, hey man, try that suggestion jar. So that was just a funny little thing that popped into my head when you said a success story. So to be successful, to me, we want to encourage reading. That has to be our main focus.
Thank you, Laura, for sharing that story. That's great.
This is Robin Holloway. I want to tell you a little bit about the offenders and patrons that I work with. I work on what's called a transfer facility, and it's a women's unit. These are ladies who are just coming into the prison system or re-entering the prison system again. And I would guess upwards of 95% of all the offenders were not public library users. One of the most amazing things that I witness every day are these offenders becoming readers. It is perhaps one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had in that regard, to watch them become readers, and then watch them graduate from James Patterson to perhaps somebody else like Harlan Coben, and I get to witness their confidence increase with every step they take. It's very those are the people that I deal with. Other people on the panel are dealing with people who have been incarcerated for years, but I'm getting all the newbies.
Thank you so much, Robin. That's fantastic.
Do you have time for one more?
Oh, sure.
Okay, this is from Tia Hodges. She's a library clerk at Hobby. She wasn't able to join us today, but she submitted this success story. She had previously been a correctional officer before she joined our staff in the library. This is what she wrote. I have seen offenders in the buildings behave in a very unsavory manner. One particular offender was placed in GED and did not want to be there, and certainly did not want to go to the library. I would see this offender when she came in for the first 7 or 8 weeks, and she would not like to check out a book. One day she came in and asked a library worker where the easy readers were. She was almost 70 years old and had been incarcerated for over 10 years. She said she could not read past the second grade level. It was around the time that I was ordering books, so I ordered a few lower level books. The library workers must have told her that I was ordering a few library easy readers because she came thanking me before the books even came. Once the books came in, I directed her to where they were, and her entire face lit up like a Christmas tree at a light show. She walked over there and picked out 3 books. A couple of months had gone by, and I would see her come to the library. She would tell me excitedly that she had read an entire mid-level book. She was progressing and becoming determined to do what was right. She became the same offender on the outside, except she had a smile on her face. She would speak respectfully and have manners that I had not seen before. Finally, one day she walked in the library and said to me, "Mrs. Hodges, I saw parole and I was approved." She then began to show tears in her eyes and say, "Now I can go home and read to my grandson." It is the little things that we take for granted. I could physically see the impact that a library book had made. It is a special feeling when you can physically see the progression of an offender from aggressive to calm, from anger to happy, from not even wanting to read to being able to read, from a life of crime all their life to wanting to find a job or own their own business. It is a wonderful thing to watch. I truly feel that differences are being made from being in the WSD library books.
Wow, thank you so much, Rebecca. What a powerful story. I love the idea of her going home to read to her grandkids, and I got a couple of comments. Wow, thanks for making me cry. So,
Mr. Riley would like to share what kind of activities that we do that also increases participation in our library.
thank you.
Well, we run various competitions like poetry competitions, bookmark competitions, etc. And I have tended to, regardless of winners, to give certificates of participation to anybody who takes part. And I always remember that for some of them, it's the first time in their lives they've had some recognition of a bit of success in their lives. And I am delighted to do that for them.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Brian Kelly. I'm going to add one really quick thing here. I returned to work there at the Pulaski unit back in 2014, and in the time between then and now, I had some longtime attending patrons who've come to me and said, this is the first time we've actually had a librarian who actually took an interest in what we are interested in and cared about us and offered things that we're interested in, not just simply putting books on the shelves, but actually take the time to care about us.
That's fantastic. Thank you all for sharing those. That was really amazing. And we've had some questions come in while you all were talking. Many of you talked about getting feedback from your patrons, and just does that inform programs that you offer as well as the collection, and do you do any formalized research with your users?
What do you mean by formalized research?
I'm not.
Let me speak to this, and perhaps this will answer the question. We do have 86 libraries, so we participate in loaning books in our school district. We don't go outside of our school district. So if someone needs to research a topic and we don't have that information in that library, we will contact other libraries in our school district and we can send those books to them. And if we can't find the books, we will run off information on the internet. We can't allow them to take the papers and keep them, but they can look at the information. So even though they can't use the internet, they are looking at the information from it. Or we even add to our collection because we see that there is a need for that information.
Okay, great. Thank you. And let's see here. Can you talk a little bit about what the most popular types of fiction are? You all mentioned a few authors.
I have all the librarians wanting to talk to you, so let's see who will speak on that first.
Hi, this is Brian Kelly again. One of the absolute biggest authors on pretty much the biggest percentage of our units is William W. Johnstone. He's a Western writer. Basically, you put his name on anything and it will go off the shelf.
Barclay Riley, let me add James Patterson, John Grisham. Okay, I'll pass it on.
This is Laura Gott again. What I see is a lot of graphic novel fans, sci-fi fans, fantasy fans, and you'd be surprised. We also have people who come for a variety of nonfiction topics. I've even had people want to come and look at books about opera, if you can believe it or not.
This is Robin Holloway again. The previous people all worked at male units, so what's popular on a female unit, I can tell you, is James Patterson, Janet Ivanovich. True crime is hugely popular, so I would say Anne Rule. Anything with Anne Rule's name on it will just fly off the shelf also. But yeah, Patterson and Ivanovich are Stephen King. Oh yes, Sandra Brown, Baldacci, Lee Child.
It's different from the public library.
It's not much different from the public library.
These are sounding very familiar. And we got a response. Johnstone is a favorite here as well. I thought my library was the only one, but I guess not. And then we had a question about the Polensky unit in particular. Do people on death row, are they using the library as well?
Very much so. In fact, out of all my patrons, they are probably the absolute best group I have to work with. Even though that I've never seen them in person, they're very consistent with their requests and they're very good with their books. I would probably say my return rate with death row is about 99.9%. I've never had issues dealing with death row versus the rest of the population.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we had a quick question. Is urban fiction also popular?
Yes, very, very much so.
Okay, great. Okay, and we have another follow-up question. Given the overrepresentation of Black men incarcerated in the U.S., does collection development take into account material that is not necessarily written by white authors?
Well, actually, first of all, I wouldn't say that there is a large majority of Black offenders. I think in our population,
One half is white, 1/4 Black, 1/4 Hispanic.
Robin was sharing with me that on her unit that 1/2 is white, 1/4 is Black, and 1/4 is Hispanic. So even though we see a lot of information being disseminated that there are a lot of Black offenders in our prison system, we don't see that in our population. It's more equal. It's more equal in our populations. But to answer the question, we look at what the patrons are reading, what the patrons want to read, and we do try to get those types of authors so that everyone can be represented in our collection, that they can see themselves, but we also put things in our collection to try to get them to grow so that they can see what else is out there in the world.
Great, thank you, Rebecca. And do you all collect titles in other languages?
Yes, we do. We have different languages. Depending on the unit, Lord God is telling me that she has Vietnamese. So, if we have a population that has that language need, then we make sure that our collection represents that. But in all of our collections, I believe we could say that Spanish is probably the #1 language after English.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I had a comment about the photo that's on the slide. All the photos that are used in these slides that were taken within units are actually from the Washington State prison system. Texas does not allow photos um, in prisons. So these are kind of.
I will say that we have artwork that is similar to that, in that quality. We have some great artists in our units that will put murals on the wall for us.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rebecca. We're running a little bit short on time, and so I want to kind of skip ahead to how public libraries can support Windham School District patrons, and then we'll come back to collect the questions that have come in the meantime.
Well, I'm going to pass this over to Robin because she and I were talking this morning, and she already has some ideas, so she's ready to get this going.
Okay, great.
This is Robin Holloway. Like I mentioned earlier, I worked in public libraries for 17 years, and I've been with Windham now for 5. What I primarily see that I would like to see happen is some more outreach, and so much could be done when our patrons are released. And a lot of them are going to need technological support, classes and workshops that public libraries might be able to provide. Some people have not seen a smartphone. Some people have never looked for a job online. And if public libraries can do some outreach to the people that need those sort of resources, that would be wonderful. Also, reentry resources. We have a resource book that we use. It lists every single county in the state of Texas and the resources that are provided, halfway houses, clothing, food, and unfortunately I don't see public libraries listed as a resource in that book. I would love to see that remedied. The other thing I kind of envision some maybe collaboration with the friends groups, perhaps coordinating with TDCJ to provide some story time, maybe during visiting hours. We have a wonderful, wonderful project called the Storybook Project for Women, where this has nothing to do with Windham, but it's a beautiful program. And I'd like to perhaps, we could do something similar in that women are recorded reading a book to their child or children, and then the recording along with the book is then sent to the child. It's a way of keeping that bond between mother and child, and I would just love to see, that makes such a huge, huge difference. A lot of these women don't have contact with their children until they're released. So I think, public story times and just doing a lot of outreach to the offenders. I thought maybe a friends group could come and into a library or onto a unit to explain to people who are going to soon be released what all the public library has to offer. And that's the kind of thing I've been thinking about. Also, the women who work, none of us have regular workers. All of our workers in the library are offenders. And what I have encountered is that the women would love to continue what they have learned in the library. And if they don't already have an established career, they get very, very excited about the work they're doing in the library and would like to continue it if they can. So I envision maybe some volunteer programs that the public libraries could offer to offenders that have been released. They are incredible book menders. They're very, very good at what they do. They're very good and very hardworking. So those are some of the ideas that I had where I could see that public libraries and WSD could collaborate.
Thank you so much, Robin. And then we have a couple of possibilities here based on a conversation I had with Rebecca earlier is think about whether your library would be able to issue a library card to an offender before release. We had a question come in. What would you do for patrons who don't have a physical address? Do you all know? Does each Wyndham patron have a physical address when they're released, or is that something that could be more up in the air?
That is a requirement. They have to have an address before they're released.
Okay, great. Thank you. And it would also kind of depend on your library's policies, probably. And this kind of building on what Robin talked about, it is just to make sure people are aware of the services the public library offers that the Wyndham patrons can take advantage of.
Right. If the public library has some outreach programs, if they would send me that information, I will get it to the libraries that are in their area. And we'll also put it on our web share program so that, perhaps someone is incarcerated here in Huntsville, but they're going to go home to San Antonio. So even though they're not in that area right now, they will be once they're released.
And how far in advance do you all know that?
That's really privileged information, so we're not aware. The offender has a general idea of when he or she will be released, but the exact date is not known.
Okay, but there would be some time to coordinate, possibly.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. We have some specific questions about that, and I'll get to those in just a minute. And then another suggestion that was proposed was if an author is coming to visit your library, see if you have a unit nearby, if they'll visit the unit library as well.
Absolutely. We are more than welcome for any volunteers or local authors or anything that we can do to promote the community and getting involved in our offender population. And let me pass this over to Dr. Craig because she is the one who coordinates the volunteer program, so she can speak to this momentarily.
Thank you.
This is Latrice Craig again, and I'm responsible for the volunteer programs as well. And certainly it's a possibility. It's possible to have authors that are visiting the local libraries to also visit unit libraries in the same area, and it would just require coordination of the two librarians, and we would need to make sure that the author that's going to be visiting has an approved volunteer application on file, and that individual would be considered a special volunteer. So in other words, not someone that's coming to visit the unit routinely on a regular basis, but just a one-time visit. And so we would treat the author in the same manner that we do our special guests that perhaps come and speak at our graduation ceremonies. So there is just a little bit of paperwork involved, but certainly with some coordination between the unit librarian and the public librarian, it's a possibility.
Thank you, Dr. Craig. Okay, and Robin highlighted this too, kind of the family reading program, and we had a question about hosting a story time during visiting hours. Can you provide a little bit more information about what would be the next step to set that up?
If someone's interested in hosting a story hour during visitation, the best route for that, or in order to achieve that, I would say would be through a volunteer program. So you would just need to submit a volunteer application, and on that application, indicate what it is that you're interested in doing, and the first step would be to get that application approved, and then after that, it would just be making contact with the unit and scheduling that time. But I think that's a wonderful idea.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and again, this is a map of all the different units, so you can be thinking about which one might be closest to you. But Rebecca requested that if you all are interested in contacting your local prison, this or your local unit, this a question that came up: how do you get in touch with your local unit? Rebecca suggested that you start with her, and that she would be able to direct you. And so Rebecca's email address is on the screen now. So if you're inspired and are considering partnering with Wyndham on any of these projects, please email Rebecca. And then we have a couple of other questions that have come in. Let me go back here. Back to a quick question about collections. Do you have mostly print books? Are there audiobooks and ebooks?
We have no e-books. The only audio books that we have would be through the Talking Book program, and that's for those that qualify for that program, but everything else is printed materials.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are inmates able to Skype with family?
No.
No. Okay. Due to the lack of internet access.
That is correct.
Which is a policy of the Texas Department
of Criminal Justice. Yes.
So that impacts all units.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then if you would like to get in touch with your local unit, contact Rebecca. Okay. And then finally, we got a comment. Thank you so much for this window and insight into this world for those of us in libraries outside of prison walls. Very powerful.
Well, I want to thank everyone who has joined the webinar today, because that just shows that you want to help us, that you are wanting to collaborate, and we appreciate that, because it is our hope that we can get these offenders to go out into your communities where you live and be successful, because that's what we're trying to do. So we're trying to help you, and in return for you to say, well, we want to help as well, that's very encouraging, and we thank you all for taking your time to listen to us this morning.
Thank you, Rebecca. We're all working on the same thing here. And we have a question. Our library is considering having parenting classes at the county jail. We've met with the jail's programming team and they are on board. Our only setback is there's a concern for their safety while they're teaching the classes. Does the Wyndham School District have any concerns about safety for your librarians? And if so, how has this issue been addressed?
Well, security is always in the forefront of our minds, but even with our volunteers coming in, I think that we have so many policies and procedures in place that we feel very secure. It is very rare for any incident to happen. So I can't speak for the county what the situation is there, but for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, we feel secure in what we're doing, or we wouldn't be there.
Okay, great. Thank you. We've got a couple of other comments coming in. In regards to the storybook project, what format, what the recording that the women create, what format is that?
It's a compact disc.
A compact disc. Robin says it's a compact disc.
Okay, thank you. And then we have a representative on the webinar from the Inside Books Project. It's great to hear that many of our donations to individuals are likely making it into the Wyndham School District libraries. And she'll be in touch directly about how they can support your librarians.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we've got a couple of other appreciative comments. This was a wonderful webinar. And just a suggestion, about audio software. Oops, but I lost it. It was about Audacity as a free editing software. If anybody has any final questions or comments, feel free to put them in. But it is we're right at the hour. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we got a thank you from a fellow prison librarian that joined us, I think from another state. Thank you all, Wyndham team, so much for your time and for sharing your knowledge and expertise and your success stories. It's really exciting to hear about your work.
Well, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you all, and we're excited to see where we can take this next.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Have a great day in Huntsville.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.